Welcome to Tech Spotlight, a series where I talk about the cheapest techs in the game that even the poorest players can afford. Let's have a look at today's card, Amaze Attraction Horror House. Horror House is a card that you probably have seen in a lot of my recent free-to-play decks. That's because this card is really good, even in a lot of expensive decks that some people are playing. They still use this card for the Amazement engine, where they play the Amazement boss monster, but this card is also pretty good as a standalone cheap tech in most decks. This card is basically a budget Book of Moon, if you know what that card does. It is basically that, but in a trap form, and also a lot easier to obtain. Let's have a look at the effects. Target one Amazement monster you control, or one face-up monster your opponent controls, equip this card to it. You can activate the following effect based on which player controls the equipped monster. If you control the equipped monster, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. If your opponent controls the equipped monster, you can change the equipped monster to face down defense position. And also, you can only use this effect once per turn. Even though this is a hard once per turn, it is also a pretty useful Book of Moon substitute, because as you can probably tell, you won't be equipping this card to your own monster if you're not playing any Amazement monsters, so you're only going to exclusively equip this card to your opponent's monsters as a form of disruption, so basically you will only be using its second effect. It is pretty useful to equip to your opponent's monster, and then you can turn the toggle on. Remember to do that, because if you don't, your opponent will have a chance to do something else before you flip that monster face down. But if you do turn the toggle on, once you equip your trap to your opponent's monster, you can immediately activate its second effect to flip that monster face down. And if you've been playing this game for some time, honestly, if you've been playing this game for any time at all, you probably know that flipping a monster face down is a pretty good effect. It not only stops your opponent from attacking with their monsters, it also prevents them from using that monster's effects, because if your monster is face down, you can't use the effects on field. So what you can do is, if your opponent summons a starter that has an effect that is a spell speed 1, which means you can use its effect as a trigger effect during the main phase, you can flip that monster face down before they use that effect to prevent them from using that effect at all. Or if your opponent tries to attack you with their boss monster, you can flip that monster face down and stop that monster's attack. Or if your opponent has a really powerful boss monster that has a really annoying quick effect, you can still use this trap to flip that monster face down to prevent them from using that quick effect. Even though this is a trap, which means if you go second and your opponent has a really strong monster, you can't use this card the way you use it, like a Book of Moon, where you flip that monster face down before you start your combo. But you can still set this card face down and wait until your opponent's turn, and then flip that monster face down when your opponent goes to the battle phase, because if you flip it during the main phase, they can just flip it up again. So that's basically the gist of how this card works. Obviously, this card does have a few weaknesses that Book of Moon doesn't. The one that I mentioned is a huge one, which is it is not a quick play spell, so you can't use it during your own turn when you go second. Another one is that it needs to start a new chain when it flips that monster face down. So your opponent actually has an opportunity to destroy this card before you get to use its effect. So card back removals like MST could destroy this card before you use its second effect. So, but pretty much this card is really similar to Book of Moon, other than these added weaknesses, and those usually don't matter too much when you are playing this card. So I still really recommend getting this card if you are a new player or budget player. If you don't have access to Book of Moon because it's too expensive, this card is a really good alternative that you will want to consider. Okay, let's have a look at one of my replays where I use this card. This is in the Duelist Kingdom Duelist Kingdom event, I believe, and I am playing Chalmers. Yes. We did not open with Horror House, but we will get it pretty soon. We will begin our turn by just doing normal Charmer stuff. The reason why I chose Charmers to demonstrate this card is because, first of all, Charmers aren't very good, so I get to use the effect of the trap a lot more. And second of all, Charmers really draw a lot of cards, so I get to dig through my deck a lot quicker than a lot of the other decks. So I get to find Horror House a lot easier. As you can see, we drew Horror House just from the effect of continuous spell. Our opponent will be grabbing the ritual spell or fusion spell, which they can choose whichever effect to use, and make their fusion monster. Then we're going to activate their skill and boost their own monster's attack and beat over all of our stuff, but that's fine because we drew a monster. We could summon that monster and draw a card for free, and then use the trap to summon another monster and pop our opponent's Dark Magician. Now we have 2 level 4s, we can make Castell and spin that fusion monster back to the extra deck. Our opponent will activate Dark Magic Expanded, but they don't have enough Dark Magicians in grave, so they can't use the third effect that makes their monster unaffected by your opponent's card effects. Our opponent will be summoning the Illusion Magician. We will Veiler that so he doesn't get to search anything, but joke's on us, he actually has an out for it. He has Illusion Magic, which allows him to tribute his own monster so that his effect will still resolve. Now he has a hand full of Dark Magicians, which he will normal summon. We will activate Horror House and flip that monster face down, preventing the attack from connecting. Now we are free to summon our own monsters and just attack his face down Dark Magician for lethal. Anyway, I hope that new players at least who watch this video will find it helpful and consider this card in deck building when you build your decks, because this card is really cheap and I would recommend a lot of new players or budget players to play this card in your deck if you don't have Book of Moon. But anyway, I will probably make a lot more of these in the future because I haven't done one of these for a very long time, and a couple of really good tech cards have been released that are really easy to get, so expect to see videos like this in the future as well. But for now, thanks for watching and goodbye.